Hello and welcome to our next session here at the CMMC Summit. I'm Vince Petreka, Vice President of Sales and Partnerships at Prevail. Very happy to have you join us today and be part of this event. It's an exciting time, certainly an apprehensive time as well for some folks, but that's what we're trying to do today is really address a lot of that and help folks find solutions to these challenges. Happy to have a couple esteemed partners with us today, who I'm going to introduce. This is Bob Moore with Business Transformation Institute and Steve Pratt with Centaur. Bob, why don't you take a minute and introduce yourself, and then Steve, go after that.
Sure. Thank you. As was mentioned, Bob Moore. I am currently the president of Business Transformation Institute Incorporated, BTI, based out of Columbia, Maryland. Personally, I have been involved in cybersecurity back before we even called it cybersecurity. I started as a cryptologic mathematician for one of the three-letter intelligence agencies back in 1987, and have been really working both the defense and the offense side of cybersecurity. And I'm delighted to see the government recognize that we have a lot of information to protect out there other than just classified, that controlled unclassified information is important, critical to all of us as US citizens. And so I'm excited to see all of you here to talk about it. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Steve Pratt with Centaur. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer here. I also lead our CMMC and FedRAMP programs. We were the 21st C3PAO authorized. We've been authorized a little over 3 years now. And we're one of the 12 companies that is both a CMMC C3PAO and a FedRAMP 3PAO. Personally, I've been in the IT and cybersecurity fields for a little over 20 years. I've been with Centaur for about half of that, and I'm excited to get to talk to you all today and hopefully answer some of your questions.
Very good. Steve and Bob, thanks a lot for joining us today. We'll go ahead and get rolling. First, I want to let the audience know that there's going to be a couple polls during the session today. Please be prepared for those. Don't let it distract you too much, but take a moment, a second or two, respond to the poll. We're going to be tracking that information. We'll share that back with you as well at the end. And then also in the last couple minutes of this session, there'll be a lightning Q&A round where the audience will have a chance to win some gifts for paying attention. So you got to pay attention, see what happens during the session. If so, you'll be able to answer the questions first and win the prize. But for today, this session is the tools that you will need to get to a 1010 CMMC certification score. And I'll kind of rephrase that a little bit. It's will or may need. We're going to talk about a couple that you certainly will, for sure, need the right solution. And then a few that are kind of more on the may side, but I think we'd recommend all of these, and that's what you're going to hear as we go through this list. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of labor. It takes a lot of perseverance to get through this process. But tools can make it a little easier. They can make it faster. They can make it more effective. And they can help ensure that you get to your 110 the first time if you apply them correctly. So let's go ahead and get started. The very first and say fundamental tool that you're going to need is a platform that is DFARS 7012 compliant. One that can help you meet the CMMC controls associated with managing that content. Certainly there's on-prem solutions that you can apply for this and make sure that your physical on-prem solutions meet the CMMC requirements. But of course, there's many cloud services today as well. And so what I'd like to do is ask our panelists just kind of what they're seeing in the marketplace and what's working as a proven solution for DIB contractors. Bob, do you want to kick us off?
Certainly. So first of all, I want to make sure everyone understands that this is not purely an IT solution. It is possible to do everything that you need in CMMC in paper, and that's what people used to do, of course, before we had computers. But nowadays, it's much more efficient to think about selecting the tools and understanding how those tools fit in your environment. This is very much a environment where you need to do the trade. You need to look at what you need. You need to look at where you are. You need to look at what sort of information you're going to handle, where you're going to receive it from, who you need to convey it to, and then look at the costs and advantages of the different environments. And those environments range from things like, say, a Microsoft Azure government cloud computing high environment that we call a SCIF in a box. That's a sensitive compartmented information facility. Those sorts of tools handle, or that sort of environment rather, handles almost everything for you. But of course, when you get everything in a single box, you're also going to pay for it. And that tends to be the most expensive solution. So if you're a larger organization, or you're sharing with many folks, or you're having subcontractors yourself in the mix, then you might look at that sort of GCC high environment. And then going down through the range, there are tools and environments that handle specific needs. So for instance, since you're at a Prevail conference, Prevail is a very prominent solution that handles some of the much harder requirements without having that higher cost point. So my suggestion to start with is to list out what you're going to handle, what you want a tool to handle, go through all of the controls in the CMMC, understand what they mean, at least at a reading knowledge level, and then start to compare and contrast what the tools do for you versus what you're willing to pay and what you want to take on for yourself. Absolutely critical. Otherwise, you're going to dig yourself in an enormous hole that's going to be very expensive and buy more than you really need to have. Stephen, what do you think?
I agree with all of that. GCC High is a great platform that gets you an email solution, a SharePoint solution, et cetera. Prevail is a great tool that can take a less costly commercial version of 365 or a different platform you may have, and coupled with that can meet the compliance. They've got an email solution, they've got a file share solution that completely meets the requirements. And you're right. The biggest point is looking at where your CUI is going to be stored, transmitted, and processed, and first map out your plan, your scope. Who needs access to that CUI? Where can you limit it? And then finding the solution that works best for you.
Exactly. And that platform choice has a big impact on the compliance journey, though, right? I mean, what it covers, what it doesn't, the cost, not just associated with those licenses for that platform, but also for the work that's going to be required to make that platform fit into your system security plan, your SOPs, et cetera. So it has a big impact on that. What could you just say about, I think it's really important at this point. There's been a number of CMMC assessments that have been completed. What does it mean in terms of using, I like to talk about proven platform. What's the benefit from a C3PO perspective of someone coming to you and saying, hey, we use this solution, and you know that it's been proven in other CMMC assessments?
So for us, when we're actually cost modeling what any given assessment looks like, one of the specific questions we're asking people is what sort of environment do they use, and what their understanding of it is. And that's actually a direct cost driver in us planning out how long an assessment is going to take and how much an assessment is going to cost. If you're using a known compliant platform, it's much easier for our assessor to take a look at it. It's much easier for us to get the evidence. It just runs more smoothly across the board for everybody. And we're very into boring assessments. Boring assessments are ones where, yes, we have to check, yes, we have to make sure, but we know what the answer is going to be. And so if you're using something like Prevail or many of the other known tools, that just makes it so much easier for everybody and less expensive, which of course everybody cares about at the end of the day.
Cost
Yeah,
always matters.
I agree with that. And another piece to that, these tools, if they're handling CUI, are going to need to be FedRAMP moderate or equivalent. And if they already have that piece, that is Prevail's well known for being the first one to receive FedRAMP equivalency. GCC High is FedRAMP moderate. This goes a long way in as Bob said, letting us know how much work we're going to be into when we get in there.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Thank you, gentlemen. Let's go on to the next key set of tools that are going to be part of this process. And that are we call the device or the endpoint controls. In most scenarios, unless you're in a virtual desktop environment exclusively, you will be subject to a standard set of called device hygiene related controls around multi-factor authentication, encryption at rest, vulnerability scanning, etc. Steve, maybe if you just real quick, what are some of the key ones here? What are some of the easiest or quickest ways that folks can employ these to meet the endpoint controls for CMMC?
So yeah, there's several endpoint controls. If you're using laptops, you've got to implement full disk encryption. You need antivirus, anti-malware scans, strong passwords. They're multi-factor authentication. A lot of these tools you need. There are a lot of platforms out there. You can buy these, single one at a time pieces, or you can buy packages that include a lot of these. So, Microsoft's a good example of one that provides some of that in a box to where you can apply that and track all that. Having a central location where you deploy that from and where you can see a dashboard and see that all of your endpoints are within compliance and meeting the requirements. That's a key differentiator as well.
Yeah.
I think managing them too, not just saying, "Hey, it's going beyond seeing them. It's understanding that what goes on those boxes, what goes on those endpoints is centrally controlled. When you're making the argument during an assessment that, "Hey, I've got this. Here's what the rules are, and here's how I can prove to you that people are obeying those rules," extending the control of your central IT management function out to the endpoints so that you can say, these are the controls we put in place. I can monitor the controls. I know that the controls are active. I'm alerted when the controls fault out. Very critical for proving that case, and really for reducing your headache, right? I mean, who in this age of proliferating devices, it's not just a desktop machine sitting in your office. Being able to manage those endpoints for places that may not be in your direct supervision on a daily basis is something that you're going to be looking to a tool to help you do.
Exactly. And I know, a lot of Prevail customers also use Microsoft Commercial 365 for the rest of their business use outside of CUI or ITAR content. Some of them don't realize when we start talking with them that tools that they may already have access to, like Entra or Sentinel, Intune, et cetera, that they're using, may even be using already today, can be used to help address these endpoint controls, correct?
That's correct. And that's one of the reasons I say you have to do that survey up front of what do you need? What do you have? What sort of information to get? Because by and large, the modern IT environment has started to incorporate these just because into what's going on. And so you may have a lot of those solutions, or have a solution and you just need to change the license slightly to handle a lot of that information for you. So
Mhm.
it's not, I won't say it's easy. It's certainly a challenge, but it's not as hard as people often make it out to be.
Yeah. Steve, any input on that one?
I agree. And the just being able to deploy it from a central location and manage it, as he said, and seeing when things fall out of compliance. When other devices are added, if you've got a tool that's scanning to see what's out there as well, you can see when things are added to the system that don't meet the baseline. A lot of these tools will block those from the network, so you don't have rogue devices being plugged in, and you can apply those things.
Yeah, agreed. And I'll just note that obviously many of our Prevail customers have endpoints. They all have endpoints associated with their system, and they need to manage them per the compliance requirements. And as part of what we do, we provide compliance documentation templates that specifically go into exactly how to configure the standard Microsoft tools so that they can apply that to their CMMC compliance journey. So we built that right in the past. So many people have the Microsoft commercial environment. Obviously, Prevail works with Gmail and other environments as well, but Microsoft is predominant. Okay, so let's go ahead and
So
go
Vince, if you
on
don't
to the.
mind, if you don't mind, I want to follow up on that.
Yeah.
So Stephen had mentioned earlier the full disk encryption. You just mentioned managing that compliance. There are a couple of places that are very technical inside of the CMMC.
Mhm.
So, for instance, with your whole disk encryption, you do want to make sure that you look for a FIPS 140 Rev 2 or
Mhm.
Rev 3 solution. Look that up. It needs to say that the solution is validated. The government actually publishes a list of those. Make sure that whatever solution you're deploying is in fact a validated one at either Rev 2 or Rev 3. And my favorite, favorite in quotes, bugaboo out there in the world is organizations that say, hey, you can use your personally owned device to access CUI. Uh, that creates a lot of headaches. And so, as a forward leaning organization seeking assessments or seeking certification, you all will want to look at what is your bring your own device policy, and are you able to do things like deploy Prevail or other solutions into that environment to help you manage those headaches? Because believe you me, when you get to assessment time, those devices are going to be a headache.
Exactly. No, we agree. We think scoping the user base as well as the device
Critical,
base, both
critical.
very important. So appreciate that, guys. All right, let's move on to another topic, another tool that we think was critical to help you get to that 110 score. And I touched on it just a minute ago, but it's basically pre-packaged compliance documentation content that is out there. The documentation challenge for CMMC, I'm sure as many in the audience realize, is real. It is a lot. Most of our customers end up moving forward with SSP, SOP, that's System Security Plan and Standard Operating Procedure, books that essentially are over 1,000 pages in total to meet their CMMC Level 2 compliance requirements. It's a lot of work. Prevail and others have created pre-filled content that can help you get started, especially small, medium businesses who don't have a lot of that today, to help them get off on the right foot there. So I'd like to just, get some input from you, Bob and Steve, as to how you've seen this help folks in the process. Bob, you want to kick us off?
Certainly. So the system security plan, the SSP that Vince just mentioned, is a required document for doing your level 2 assessment. Pretty much every assessor is going to go and look and say, "What do you got? Show it to me." The DoD does publish a template for that. The template leaves a heck of a lot of work for the people filling it out. Much better is to have one from a service provider like Prevail or like others, and have a lot of those fields filled in for you with a known and accepted answer. That's one of the right ways that you drive both your compliance journey to be shorter and your compliance costs to be lesser by picking those up. And frankly, if you can do a good job with the SSP, if any of you have ever been through an ISO 9001 audit or similar ISO sort of compliance regimes, it's all about say what you're going to do and then do what you're going to, just you're saying it and you're doing it both. And the SSP helps you enormously in that. So it walks through the controls, it says what you're going to do, and then you just have to demonstrate that, yay, verily, I am doing that. That's a outside the strict, hey, I'm giving you a tool that lets you do things. Having those ready-made templates is the other biggest place that you spend time and effort and cost getting
Yeah.
to. And having the guidance is invaluable. So I cannot endorse that highly enough. It's
Yeah.
it's it's 50% or more of the journey.
Yeah. Very good. Steve, thoughts?
Sure, sure. So, Bob touched on the templates that are out there. One of the things you got to think about if you're buying a template set, as Bob pointed out, there's work you have to do. Some of them have a heavy lift. Some of them, like your set, you guys provide all the Prevail information, but there's a shared responsibility that the OSC is going to be doing as well, and they need to complete their part. Oftentimes, we have seen, we go into to do an assessment, and a company has bought a template set and never opened it, and you go in there and there's blanks, and so you realize that when you buy these, they are, there is some work you need to do to tailor tailor the documentation to what you do, or tailor what you do to match the documentation. Another big important part of the SSP, not only is it an actual control requirement, but there are a lot of assessment objectives that we're looking at when we conduct assessments that require you to define and identify things. And the SSP is the key place where most of that defining and identifying comes into play. We have to look to make sure you've defined it, and then we need to look to make sure you've implemented things as you have defined. Those are two separate assessment objectives that repeat themselves a lot. And if you haven't defined something, we can't assess it as being implemented as defined. So you may have the strongest password authentication method out there, but if you haven't defined how you're doing that, then we can't pass that, because we can't say that it's implemented as defined. So make sure you are documenting what you're doing, and then following your documentation.
I agree 100%. At Prevail, we've created iterations of a very complete set of compliance documentation for a company we made up called Acme Corp. And Acme Corp has actually gone through a CMMC level 2 assessment, and was, quote, granted that by authorized C3PAOs. So we know it meets that, but it won't meet any specific company. That company has to go through all of the content, word by word, and ensure it either matches what they want to do, or they can work with that, or that they customize it specifically to their business. And even more important than that is that when they go for the assessment, everyone in the company needs to be on board with what's in that documentation package. Because an assessor, I think you'll know more as well as anyone, that if they see that there's a discontinuity between the documentation and how the company is conducting its business, that's like a big red flag.
Right. It's an instant place that you start to have to deduct points, regrettably,
Yeah.
because clearly they know what they're doing if they're implementing it. It's just the failure to explain themselves adequately. And I think that brings up another tool that we really haven't, tool class that we really haven't talked about, which is our GRC, governance, risk, and compliance tools that help you track and monitor and understand what evidence you have, where it's at, how all those pieces add up to compliance. And so that's a category. It's not strictly required to be assessed at CMMC level 2, but there are helpful management services, GRC tools being one of them, that help you to navigate what you need to do, and have you built the adequate case book for proving it to a C3PAO.
Agree 100%. GRC is a very important related aspect, certainly on the list of tools as well. We've got 2 or 3 more minutes. Now, there was one other thing I know we wanted to cover before we ran out of time. We want to discuss something called, I think, a pre-assessment or a mock assessment. And I really want to think about this as a tool to help your assure that you get to that 110 score. So Steve, maybe you can describe why the mock assessment is so important in this process.
Yes. So hopefully all the companies are using a trusted advisor to help them meet the compliance before they get assessed. But another way to help you, especially if you are doing it on your own, is to have a mock assessment conducted first. So this is conducted just like a regular assessment. We provide them; many of the C3PAOs provide them, and we conduct a full assessment, and we can point out where you've got holes. Now if we're conducting the final assessment as well, then we can't give you any advice on how to fix those areas, but we can tell you which ones that you are not meeting, and provide you the reason that you're not meeting it. That gives you a chance to go back and fix those things before you go through the real assessment that would lead to a certification. And gives you a much better chance of passing that assessment and getting your certificate.
Yeah, agreed. Bob, any last words there?
Yeah, I would endorse what Stephen just said. As a C3PAO, we say, hey, the actual formal assessment is a high wire act without the net. You should consider strongly, even though it adds to your expense, adds to your time, to do the mock assessment, because everybody does you should be doing a dress rehearsal, and most C3POs like ourselves, like Stephen, are doing that just
Mhm.
because the consequences of failure are just too high.
Yeah.
You're risking your business effectively, and
Yeah.
so
And
you take the test first.
spending a lot more money.
Yes.
So the mock assessment is kind of a little bit of insurance policy to ensure that you don't set yourself up for a failure that could be much more expensive. So we definitely advise that for our clients as well. I think that's really important, and I just want to make sure that got listed in the tools that you use for CMMC.